Anyway, we're going to move on to talk a little bit about then. I've asked Gabby how she sees this next bit going, Rob. We've got Morocco against France now and Croatia against Argentina. Who gets to the final first? That's what I'll ask you. And then I'll ask you the next bit.
I mean, I would love to see a France-Argentina final. But having watched Morocco today against Portugal, I've got a feeling that they may be able to do to France what they've done to Portugal and done to Spain. Croatia are a funny one in that obviously they had a great run in 2018, but the final against France felt like one step too far and ultimately they got well beaten. I actually thought that may happen against Brazil, that Brazil may be one step too far, and obviously I was proved completely wrong. In my mind, again, I'm starting to think that maybe a semi-final against Argentina is again a step too far. But I think this Croatia team have shown that you just can never count them out. Again, I've been at Argentina games at this World Cup where Argentina have gone through periods of games where they've been very, very lethargic. The game has turned very scrappy, very bitty, and that will suit Croatia. I think Croatia, again, will look at that game and think there's a great chance of them winning that. In terms of who would I pick to be in a final, who do I think will make it? I think it might be Morocco, Argentina.
If I've learned one thing in this World Cup, it's that we have absolutely no idea what's going to happen. And whatever you think is going to happen, the absolute opposite of that is going to happen. So I think I'm going to tap out of predicting anything. But I do fancy Morocco over France. I do think that they can continue this unbelievable run. They did it to Belgium. They did it to Spain. They just did it to Portugal. And I do think that France have their weak points, particularly this group of French players who are in this tournament, unfortunately, without the ones that were injured. I do think perhaps if this was a full strength squad, we'd be talking about something a little bit different. On the other end of the bracket, I think that Argentina are going to get the job done over Croatia. So I guess a Morocco-Argentina final. Who would have said this at the beginning? No one. So I don't have a Scooby-Doo.
Gab, you've stood pitch side on your fair share of games. You've stood pitch side in El Clasico. You've seen Lionel Messi live. But we have to remember you are a Portuguese girl. You have Portuguese roots through and through, a Portuguese blood in your veins. Would it hurt your Portuguese heart to see Messi win the World Cup as a Portuguese fan, or do you purely see it as football and how everybody would love to see, well, many would love to see Lionel Messi win the World Cup?
Any Portuguese person that tells you that they would love to see Messi win the World Cup is flat out lying to you. And I would never do that to you, Kay. Of course, that would hurt my heart and soul, especially taking into account the way that Portugal just crashed out, the way that this was probably very much so Cristiano Ronaldo's last World Cup. It would hurt my soul. But would I like to see it for Lionel Messi, for his career, to kind of solidify his place in history? You know, so many people have pointed the finger and said he can't be considered the greatest player in the world because he hasn't won a World Cup. Do I think that would perhaps solidify that title for him? Yes, I think it's undeniable that would do that. Do I think that they can get the job done against Morocco? No. Now I'm a Moroccan fan. So guess what? Go Morocco. But yeah, I mean, it would hurt my soul as a Portuguese fan, but as a lover of football, as someone who's watched him play, just like you said, front row, he is an unbelievable player, and it would solidify his spot as the greatest in the world.
So, you know, the GOAT debate, I want to talk about criteria, Rob, and obviously you're a journalist, you can look at criteria a lot of the time. And we're now seeing that if Messi goes on to win the World Cup, that will settle a GOAT argument. That's what many are saying who are in the camp that he's the greatest of all time. Do you think it does come down to tournaments won on whether you can decide this?
I mean, with those two players in particular, it's so hard to distinguish between them. I have to agree with Gabby, though, that I do feel that the World Cup, winning the World Cup, would elevate his career beyond what Cristiano Ronaldo has achieved. And that's not to diminish what Cristiano has done, because, you know, I've watched him at Man United for years, you know, saw him in La Liga and what he's won and what he's achieved, at the number of times he was named Player of the Year, World Player of the Year, sorry. I just think to win the World Cup, given its status among footballers, to have that on your CV is massive. And if you look at the game's greatest players, you know, ask anyone in the street, and the two they will mention are Maradona and Pele, both of whom have won the World Cup. I think if Messi was to join them and win it, to cap off a career with everything else that he's already won, yeah, I think it would lift him above what Cristiano Ronaldo has achieved. I think it's that big a deal for Argentina, for Lionel Messi. You know, especially considering that he's already won the Copa America. You know, Cristiano Ronaldo's won the Euros with Portugal. The World Cup is something different. It's the biggest stage in our game, and to win that trophy, for him to lift that trophy would be absolutely huge.
Thank you very much for watching ESPN FC on YouTube. For more highlights, analysis and exclusive content, be sure to subscribe.